For you people out there in TV land, right quick. Some of you, we understand, in some cities are getting only 30 minutes of the show, the tapings. Whereas each time we're doing these tapings, we're doing 1 hour, count them, 1 hour at a time. And the first, more or less, that's real estate talk when, anyway. The first, more or less, half the program is taken up by reading what is known as And Kyroots Said. And it is a collection tonight of approximately 90 pages, approximately hell. 90 pages, and they're one-liners, parables, myths, legends, stories, lies, thought-provoking, flat tires, certain noises in your engine. And for the first 30 minutes, see, we just gotten through, people read these, and as they were being read, off camera on the screen, is flashed the number of the page being read, and people write down ones that they hear. And I'm like you, so to speak, I hear them for the first time, but a list is made of the ones that people ask for an additional comment thereon. And then Kyroot, who refuses to appear on camera, sort of gives me a signal, and I look at the list, and if the Spirit, I won't do the bit again, moves me in such a way, I will make, and Kyroot acquiesces, I will try and make some comment. There we are. And I will read them so that you'll hear what it is that we are referring to. I'm sure that explains it. I'm sure it does. I'm just being silly. Here we go. Page 5, first request, And Kyroots Said. Some of them, well, I'll read them all, I guess. Some of them, I don't know what else to say. Some trains that start slow seem to pick up speed. Some trains just seem to start slow. Sounds like a good place to start. Well, I assume now you people see how it works, and see, I try and make it clearer. As the Spirit here in Oklahoma says sometimes when it moves you, now that I have, what is it, expo sizitated? And Kyroots said, next one, out near the edges of the city was this one guy who says, well, he figures it is, quote, this New Revolution thing has got to be like the ultimate conspiracy. Carried on with those who don't realize it and don't ever think about it. Well, I will go this far. We have on several occasions mentioned conspiracy since as many people's intellectual hobby throughout history. For those of you that think it all started with Dallas or the Rosicrucians, and exactly where is Mozart buried? What are they up to? Maybe he's an unknown tomb, unknown soldier. The idea of conspiracy, no matter how you cut it, is the great background of this, which nobody wants to think about except unusual people. The conspiracy theory is based upon this simple fact, that no one has any idea what in the hell is going on. And so those who are not attracted to religion and etc. Of course, some people have kind of super hobbies that they can be attracted to religion and in their spare time when they're in church, then be believers in conspiracy theories, but it's all the same thing. That somebody somewhere, a group of, and you fill it in. Rosicrucians, Greeks who took some kind of potion and are still alive. Bankers living in Switzerland in the armpits of little gnomes or something. That there's this group, and you just fill in blank somewhere, that's running things. Now, that's based on a simple fact, that the people who believe it, they know that I don't know what the hell's going on, and I don't know who's running things, therefore, somebody's got to be, and so therefore, what's the next obvious step? They won't let me know. There's some people running it somewhere, and of course they know they're running it, and probably a few people that's paid them money. But I don't know, so therefore it's conspiracy. Now, let's take it from there, which is nothing but a hobby of no consequence, into where? Think about your own thinking. The New Revolution thing has got to be like the ultimate conspiracy. That is, that what you're doing, if you're a revolutionist, I suggest, is that all right? Kyroots says, he makes a motion like, carry on. Huh? That if you were in some way struggling against the ordinary confines of routine thought, Not better, not worse. You're not arguing with it. You're not running with the herd. You're not running with the anti-herd. You're just trying to get beyond it. That would be in you mentally. Forget anywhere else. There's no consequence. But that would be like the ultimate conspiracy. But notice, the guy says, carried out by those who don't realize it. Because if you realized it, that is, you think, yes, I'm going to conspire. I'm going to be a mental conspirator. You are now in the anti-herd. No matter what it is you're thinking about, you're not conspiring. You are not struggling against the confines of ordinary thought. All you've done has been, such as running into the wall over here on the west side of the city. And then, through some miraculous moment of unusual, if not lucidity even, epiphany, you pull yourself together, repenting of your previous folly, and begin to run headfirst into the walls on the west side of the city. I did say east, didn't I? That would be a conspiracy if you're aware of it. The ultimate conspiracy of this sort of thing would have to be carried on by those who don't realize it or even ever think about it. Of course, there was sort of a punchline here. This guy said, geez. Because if a man had such a thought and it made any sense to him, he would immediately wish he had not picked it up. Which, of course, it doesn't happen, but that's what the geez part was sort of give you civilians a way out. Like, well, I almost followed all that, but that's kind of upsetting. That's what profanity was made for. Just go, well, geez. So you can feel much better. Especially the guy that owns the copyright on the word geez. 2 cents right there he made. And Kyroots said, what the ordinary man calls the truth. This was tied to another one, by the way. During a break, an old man told the kid, the truth never sweats. But, complained the kid, you told me before that there was no such thing as, quote, the truth. And the old man said, well, there you are. And then Kyroots noted, in conjunction there too, if what ordinary minds call the truth, and ordinary minds have always been calling something the truth, whether it be on a religious basis, philosophical basis, common sense basis, everyone believes, if not in some wide philosophical sense that there is the truth, everyone believes that in certain areas they know the truth, like they know the right way to treat people, like treat people according to the golden rule, treat people economically in some fashion, etc. That there is somewhere the truth, or an ordinary mind would go crazy. And we're talking about at some worthwhile, for a discussion level, not the behavior of people, not the morality, not the truth is you should not go to bed with someone else's wife, lest they catch you and do you bodily harm. No, that's the basis of behavior, morality. We're talking about now up here, that people believe there is the truth in areas. That is, there is some sort of philosophy, there is some kind of external source of authority, des erstwhile, from the gods, holy books that direct us, and that is the truth. Kyroots points out, if what the ordinary minds call the truth was not impermanent, uncertain, and conditional, which of course at ordinary levels it is not any of these things. But if it were not, then the owners of these intellectual vehicles that run off the truth would find themselves constantly broken down by the side of the road. That is, people would be nuts. At least anyone that would be listening to this think, well, this is some sort of assault on ordinary thinking, and it's not. Because if ordinary people did not have what they call the truth, that this is not an assault on what they call the truth, it doesn't matter what they call the truth, I'm not saying it's not the truth, but if they did not have something called the truth, and beyond their understanding, this thing that they call the truth, if it were not silly-putty, if it were not uncertain, if it were not ephemeral, if it were not impermanent, then their vehicle, that is them, their personality, would not operate. They would be nuts. They would be immobilized. They would be constantly in a state of intellectual, they would call it something else, spiritual, emotional, personal. They would be in such a state of disrepair that they could hardly function. Do you follow the beauty of it? And so they say, yes, I could not carry on my life were it not for at least a few indisputable pillars of morality, truth. Were it not for those, I don't know how I or any civilized thoughtful person could carry on. And that's true, except for this. The very things that they say, the solid pillars, are not. They can't be. Doesn't make everyone want to just send out just slobbery kudos to life itself like, ooh, you sly rascal, you. Well, after that, it says if that kind of fuel is not uncertain, it says that most people's the owners of these kind of intellectual vehicles will be constantly broken down by the side of the road. Parentheses, the proper fuel for a routine secondary journey is of an intermittent mix. That is, the kind of thinking, the kind of ideas that run the ordinary mind, if it were at a pump, you'd pull up and it wouldn't say 97 octane. It wouldn't say 98 octane. It would be something like, he covered it with intermittent mix, but I'll go ahead. It would be something like, it lists the octane. It's required by law, and it would say guaranteed octane, 42% or 84%, 22%. It would have to be that kind of intermittent. And not just the gas, but whatever you put in your car would constantly change. Huh? That's how else the other people feel as though they're stable. That I have these stable ideas, which are not stable. Or else they couldn't function. But they must believe they're stable. And, brackets within parentheses, when the cry goes out, it's time for hit or miss, the mind is ready to travel. You people with your TV sets, I assume that you will, figuratively speaking, pardon me for glancing down, but we have a clock that I try to keep track of, and, of course, Kyroot is down here in the prompter's box trying to, tell me what to say. Well, they're going to figure it out. Why not admit the truth? Jesus. I don't care if they don't care. What do you care? And then Kyroots gave out, this is a whole series, I guess I'm going to have to do them all. And Kyroots said. I'm not sure there's any comment to be made, but it was a whole string, and perhaps you would help to know that these are all connected. Are you ready? 5 of them. Kyroots gave, and Kyroots said, inside Carney's news. I assume everybody knows what a Carney. Somebody works at a carnival. Okay. The Carney News. A slight reference to last time we were here. But you can understand it on its own. The midway is always complete in that the mind is the original house of mirrors. Then, looking down into his pants, one guy thought, but I always wanted to be the tunnel of love. And a woman who used to have an elephant act phoned to ask us, in that revolutionist world of yours you talk about, what is the difference between the house of mirrors and the merry-go-round, which has come up in our discussions before. And a physician on suspension, which I don't want to go into, but anyway, who sometimes travels with the show, offers this observation, that you might be interested to know that just like the human brain, which was mentioned earlier in the Kyroots, if you recall, that experiences no physical sensation, has no feeling. Just like that, cotton candy has no feeling. It's a good thing to have a man with a higher education to point out matters like this. Then the last one of this series. And then one man's toe said to his tongue, regarding this, says, I don't see the connection. The tongue answered, well, I know you don't. That's why you're down there and I'm up here. Parentheses. Even pedal digits, no matter how vocal, must bow in the face of superior logic and reasoning. Brackets within quotes. Now zip up your shoe and we'll consider this particular case closed. See, that was page 38. That's the whole series, and just me going back over it. Just me going back over it, I believe, is all of the additional exposition you need. Unless there are people here that are actually from native Oklahomans. And Kyroots said, Instead of opinions and convictions, one man had an art collection. Okay. He's afraid it'll cause additional trouble if I say anything about that one. And Kyroots said, from an alleyway in the city, I'm sure, an invisible voice sent forth this message. A man who will make judicial comments regarding his own thoughts, which I don't guess it has anything to do with that proverb update about birds will not foul their nest, but a man will talk about himself. Nobody requested that, which I'm glad. But at any rate, this message comes out. A man who will make judicial comments about his own thoughts has ideas that are ex-felons, on parole, and not fit to invite to a garden party or any other high-class affair. And some guy in the audience thinks to himself, well, if we don't judge the worth of our own mental life, who will? And Kyroots says, you got to admit, that's a pretty damn good question if you don't think about it. Think about, if you want to jump back for a minute, if you make judicial, which is judgmental, comments regarding your own thoughts, then comments do not have to be, of course, overt. It's you continually telling what kind of guy you are, telling yourself what you think. And of course, you have to repent of some thoughts. You have to suffer over some thoughts. Some thoughts you think, boy, those are great. Wait till the world finds out what great thoughts I have, and hey, I won't have to worry about being famous. But if you're making continual judgments regarding your own thoughts, then think what those thoughts amount to according to this. Instead of trying to improve upon it, I'll just quote Kyroots again. He says those kind of thoughts. He just says if you've got judicial comments. I'm the one that threw in pro or con. He just said if you've got comments, if you are evaluating what you think, his comment is, then your kind of thoughts are the same. They're ex-felons, which is kind of a literary tie-in to the part about judicial comments about your thinking. They're like ex-felons, they're on parole, and not the sort that you would want to invite to any kind of decent affair. Who the hell would want to think what they already think? Well, except an ordinary person, and we're running too short a time to worry about ordinary people. Who would want to think what they already think? What kind of decent affair, what kind of superior social gathering? That is, if you're trying to do better, you think, well, I always have wanted to do better. I hear some crap stuff, things, ideas like this. That was what I meant. I hear some things like this, and I think to myself, I should think better. I should be more, fill it in, whatever an ordinary person might think. I should be more tolerant, more broad-minded, more objective. I should just be a better thinker. That would be the garden party. That would be the high-class affair. And who do you end up taking there? Who would an ordinary person invite? Oh, I know they'd make some judicial comment like, well, everything I think perhaps doesn't have decent enough clothes to come to this kind of affair. Their manners are a bit crude, and yet some of mine are all right. They would invite some of their own thoughts. And that'd be the ones that, in their judicial judgment, are reasonable, are acceptable company. So they have made a judicial comment regarding those thoughts. In this case, positive. But Kyroots says if you invite any of them, what you have done is invite somebody who is not actually fit company for such a high-class affair. It's like a man deciding, well, I'm going to get out of town. I'm going to go somewhere great. I'm going to go somewhere far across the oceans, some metaphorical ocean. I'll go far away, and then what does he do? He jumps on a bus. I'll leave it to you folks. Is that going to fly, figuratively speaking? Well, I'll read these. I know this is tricky to hear it. It may be tricky to read it. But it was two that was connected, and it does have a point. I'm just going to, 2/3 of it is tied together. And Kyroots said, this one man had this to say. He said, wouldn't the secondary world be nice if it could be as simple and direct as the primary one is? All right, you got that. And then, and Kyroots said, in an unrelated item, Kyroots told this little story. He said, once upon a time, the Mediterranean geography decided, what with the canals and all, that Venice was just far too complicated and complex, and did away with it, only to suddenly discover that Italy disappeared. See, I'm pointing at the page right before that one. Nobody can wrestle or swim with that picture. For the geography of an area to look upon certain parts of it and have to make, in this case, a judicial decision. I could have picked out something else around Naples. I mean, what with the volcanoes and all, it's just more trouble than it's worth. And so I decided, well, all right, do away with Naples. And then turn around and realize, Jesus, Italy disappeared. Back to page 49, the guy said, wouldn't the secondary world be nice if it could be as simple and direct as the primary one? See, if brains had any feeling, I'm afraid some people's brains would itch. Kyroots didn't say that. That was, I had lived that. I was just... Well, this was a series. I'm going to read them right quick. And Kyroots said, no matter where he lived, this one man had one room that he would never go into. And if you're right, after listening to you and thinking about all this, I don't believe that any of this has anything to do with my own mind. Probably not, sir. And another viewer asked, what I want to know is all this just an act? Probably, sir. Three minutes. It's like a wrestling match. And Kyroots said, it's a little story. Sometimes just before the train would enter in a long dark tunnel, there was this guy that walked up and down the aisle and he had asked people, had they ever been in a long dark tunnel before? And if no one had, they'd go through it twice. And a guy in a burlap suit scratched his head and wondered, is that why it's so hard to learn from life, because it has so much to teach you? See, it's one of those great philosophers, well, it's one of the members of that great philosophical team that some of you from this part of the country are aware of, the non-son Giesenslaw brother. What he'd do is say, so much to teach you? So much to teach you? Sam Giesenslaw. It seems to me, those of you who don't know the Giesenslaw brothers, his great thing was they're purported to be a comedy team. Sam and son Giesenslaw, and only Sam speaks. They sing and play, and they both sing, but only Sam speaks. And his wont is to repeat a punchline with kind of a flamboyant, like if that was the punchline to a joke, because it has so much to teach you. He'd do that, and whether it got a laugh or not wouldn't matter. He'd still go, ha! Because it's got so much to teach you. Because he might do it several times, and it's like it's just so annoying or something. I don't know why people will laugh again. But it always struck me, as crude as it may seem, can you imagine laying there in the ground people like Aristotle, Socrates? Can you imagine them hearing this and thinking, damn, if they had that kind of wherewithal to make a point, or Kant, therefore I am, therefore I am. Descartes. Or John Donne, it tolls for thee, it tolls for thee. An artist who can tell you how he got to where he is regarding his work will knowingly or otherwise give you the history of his plagiaristic activities. Anybody, any time an artist, I don't make this too complicated, will label his work, will describe his work. Well, to begin with, he's already no artist if he will discuss his work. But if he will try in some way talk about himself in regards to his work, to tell you how he got there, well, I'll do it obvious in case you haven't put together. Which is nothing wrong with this, is the way the ordinary world works. It's the train going through the tunnel twice, at least. But as a man saying, someone says, well, your work is really something. In fact, what it does to me, says this critic to an artist, what it does to me, it even makes me see that Pollock's life was not in vain, that his spirit still lives. And this guy goes, oh, and takes it as a compliment, of course. Now, especially if he is not accidentally somewhere close to the abstract expressionist school, for instance. So in other words, he will, even by acquiescing to this, agreeing, he is giving you a history. Like, well, yes, that was part of my influences, but also, as a matter of fact, it's strange it may sound to you, Sir Critic, some of the German expressionists, the Blue Rider group back in the 30s, Finninger, some of those, it may sound strange when the critic goes, ooh, but even that, it's been sort of my intellectual, my artistic heritage, etc. That's the way life goes. It does it with artists, does it with writers, painters, composers, everybody, just ordinary thinkers. Well, what have they told you? They've given you a history of their plagiaristic activities. Are we out completely? Bye.